Good to see you all. How's it going? Ooh, this is not right. Let us fix this for a second. I feel like the LUT is on. It is, so let's take that off. There we go. That's better. What up, everybody? Hopefully you got. Thank you guys for joining me on today's live stream. I know this is a little bit of a day behind. Normally we do these live streams every Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, but there was just a lot that happened Thursday. I had 3 different events that basically happened that essentially happened yesterday, and there was just no way I was going to get enough time to do that. So, but today's finally come. We're finally here, today's finally here, and I'm excited about that. We got a lot to talk about today. We have obviously the big thing is the Canon C50, the rumored FX3 style body that everybody's sort of been waiting for another competitor of Sony's to come through. It looks like that will be coming next week. So we're definitely going to be talking about that. I'm going to be talking about, based on the rumors which kind of flip between back and forth, where we don't know exactly what is what. What I think, what do I like about it, what I don't like about it, and we will we will go through that and we will see. And also, if the rumor specs are true, will I be selling it? So all that and more in today's video. This is probably going to be a little. If you guys are here in chat, let me know. Let me see you coming through in chat, and also let me know how the sound goes. Unfortunately, my microphone, for some reason my microphone is not picking up, and I don't know why. So hopefully this is picking up now. Nope, I don't. Anyways, so I got the audio coming in, so hopefully you guys can still hear me pretty loudly and clearly. I see 10 people in chat. Thank you guys for coming over. Thank you guys for chatting over. So let's not waste any of you guys' time. By the way, I got to give a shout out to Brandon Washington and Jarrell over at the Creative Fam. They had an excellent stream going in talking about the C50. I know, I mean Jarrell. I know Jarrell's excited. Both of them are excited, and I'm interested about it too, and I'm excited about it too. Uh, Jarrell was walking before they even began the stream, so that was awesome. Everything. Uh, but but yeah, this is a camera that I think has just been long waiting. So, oh, we got a couple people coming in into the chat, and I probably let me read this for a second. Trevor, we got my good interest. Trevor, thank you. Uh, flexing again. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm just in my kitchen. That's all. I haven't done it. And the reason why I'm here, and I'm kind of fighting with other people in the house, but uh, there's a little bit of a makeup or a touch up of the studio. So the studio is going to look different than I normally am for I do my videos, but it's under construction right now. So I'm hoping that by Monday it will be ready, and I can and Tuesday when the Canon event happens, I'll be able to show that. By the way, for everybody out there, I will be streaming with Simon Yates, aka Ordinary Filmmaker. We will be streaming the Canon launch, and so I will be on his channel on Tuesday morning. I believe we're going to be going live at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So you guys join us. Head over to Ordinary Filmmakers channel. I will be there for that. Simple Light Media, thank you for joining the channel. Why must everything be called a FX3 killer? It's 4.5 years old. I hope Canon Standards isn't 4-year-old tech. Because I think that only that's a good question. That's a good question, man. I personally just think it has a lot to do with the fact that the FX3 has just been going strong for 4.5 years now. And look, I was somebody who was very critical of the FX3, and I believe rightfully so. And a lot of people were critical of it when it came out, because it's like you were calling yourself a cinema camera, but you didn't even have standard 24 frames cinema. You didn't even have the standard 24 frames, and you couldn't even shoot DCI. So to me, I think there were some fair critiques, but Sony has since then improved it, and it's been just it's been a big fan favorite of a lot of people. So, but we'll see. But again, to answer your question, I think it just stands its own just how much the camera has evolved over time, and how many people love that body style. And Kadeem, thank you. Showing love, Kadeem, thank you, man. Thank you for showing love in the chat. Thank you for joining, man. All right. So let's not waste any more time. Let's get this out of the way. So, as you all probably know, Canon at this point in time, because the news has been going like crazy, Canon is going to get ready to release apparently a brand new cinema camera, and this new cinema camera is going to be a direct competitor to the Sony FX3, both in terms of body and a full frame camera. And that camera is going to be the Sony, at least it's right now, it's been named the Sony C50. So, and this was sort of the first tease that we got of the Sony C50. And as you can see, they pretty much are like copy pasting the well, I won't say copy paste. That's too strong of a word. They're taking a lot of similarities to the Sony FX3, but they are doing some things different. Like they got the buttons that are laid out relatively similar, but a little bit different. 3 buttons at the top. You got the record button up there. Obviously, you got the tally light. You have the different various screws that you have on there, but let's go into what the rumor specs is. Now, originally this is the reason why I kind of waited until we learned a little bit more about this, and that's the fact that Originally it was rumored to have this exact same specs as the R5 II. Now we're sort of hearing that that is not the case, that this is going to be actually a completely brand new sensor, but most people are anticipating that this sensor is going to be in the R6 Mark III, because a lot of the rumor specs seem to be leaning this way. But anyway, the rumor specs of this is going to be a 32 megapixel sensor. So in a 3:2 aspect ratio, a 32 megapixel sensor is going to give us, my math is correct, roughly 6.9K of terms of horizontal resolution. So it's going to be a 6.9K sensor. The design is going to be very similar, as you can see from this picture that Canon sort of teased a few days ago. Very similar to the Sony FX3. It's going to have a red shutter button with the C logo, which we expect. I'm interested to see what this means. Fully articulated screen. I mean, I'm assuming that, like what Canon has done with the C80, they're pretty much majority of their cameras, they're going to have a fully articulated screen. I don't expect like a fully multi-angular screen like in the Panasonic S1 II and S1R2, or earlier renditions from their earlier cameras, or like Sony's A7R5. I don't expect that. That would be extremely dope. I love that. I think that is a design that should be almost in every camera, but I know they won't do that. But that's my opinion. So fully articulated screen. There's obviously, if it's going to be like the FX3, there's no EVF. No, a lot of people, there's some that still are like dead set on having EVF. Totally fine. There's tons of cameras that out there right now. You know, this is supposed to be an FX style body, no EVF. I don't use EVFs at all, so that's a plus for me. It's going to do 6K recording. Again, that's an interesting take, because again, it's a 32 megapixel sensor, so on a 3:2 aspect ratio, that should be 6.9K. My guess is we'll probably get it. It's going to oversample the 6.9K, maybe down to a DCI 6K. That's potentially a possibility. We don't know. It doesn't say what's the max frame rate. Is it going to do 6K 60, or is it going to stop at 30 frames? We don't know. It will shoot 4K 120 frames a second, but it will do so in a crop. So that will be interesting. Now, with the 6K, we can kind of sort of take a guess. We can sort of kind of take ideas about it with the fact that we can look at something like the C80 because of a certain feature we'll get to in terms of media. It looks like the C80 and this C50 are going to share the same media type cards, and that camera. So I expect in terms of 6K recording, I don't remember off the top of my head if the C80 shoots 6K, but I can find. I'll just search that up real quick. But I expect similar results from Canon regarding that. So I believe it did shoot. No, it shot 6K up to 30 frames a second. So, which again, because of the media, which we'll get to later, I think this is going to be shooting 6K 30 frames a second, because it's going to have the same type of media from the C80. So I think 6K up to 30 frames per second, 4K up to 120 frames per second with, again, a crop. If I remember correctly, again, it did shoot 4K 120. I don't remember if it was what type of crop the C80 had. So let's see here. It shot 4K up to 120 frames per second. Let's see here. It shot 4K up to 120 frames a second. Let's see what. I don't see the crop. I believe the crop was not that big of a deal. I think it was like a 1.3 crop. So, but hey, it's going to have a crop. It's going to have a triple base ISO. Let me actually pull that back up again. So back to this. So it's going to have a triple base ISO, and then so again I'm expecting sort of similar performance with the C80. So it's going to probably do something like 800, 3200, and 12,800. Now, um, and then dual SD card slots, and that's the reason why I think there's going to be a lot more similar designs to the C80. Obviously, there's a big one that comes afterwards that you can see right here, but um, the C the dual SD card slots to me is the as of right now, based on if all these rumors are true, this is going to be the biggest negative of the camera, because this will completely limit one, recording options, potential recording options that are capable of, but also two, it's going to have the cameras heavily compress these higher resolution sensors, which look, I think, look, most companies don't. I think most companies overall don't do high compressions very well. The only ones to me that has done it very well Red and and I would also say, um, to a lesser extent, Black Magic has done it pretty well. But for me, this is sort of the potential fallout. I I wish there was at least one card slot that was CF Express, even if it was CF Express Type A. But I don't know if because I know Sony has a good. I don't know if they have full. I know they don't have full proprietary ownership over it. But if I was Canon, I would just try to at least just do something to get CF Express Type A, so it can just open up more recording options, because that is going to be something that the FX3 is still going to have over this camera, is the fact that even though it's got higher resolutions, it's and there's going to be other things that, as you can see on the screen, we're going to continue to talk about. Um, it's that's the limitation to SD cards only. Um, that's I think that's where a lot of the limit, where a lot of the fault is going to be. Not a fan of it, but let's keep moving. And then, of course, the one that I think is going to be the main thing, that if this is all, again, if all these specs are true, this is going to be the main thing that I think everybody's going to talk about with this camera when it's announced Tuesday. And that is that it's saying that it's going to have open gate recording options. So, what if that is an oversampling of the 8K? Not 8K, if it's oversampling of the 6.9K, or if you're using the full 6.9K, that is something that is going to be a clear edge for Canon over Sony. The only thing I will say regarding this is that I really, really, really hope that it is 10-bit 422 and not like Panasonic's 10-bit 420, because that to me will make or break, at least for me, if I was to get my hands on this camera, if this would be an option. So I know some people will say it's not a big deal, and if all you're doing is just shooting, you're dropping a LUT, then yes, that you're not doing heavy grading, it's fine. The moment you start trying to do masking, you're trying to do VFX stuff, or you're doing heavy grade, because as a professional, as a colorist, I deal with this and I do this all the time. Um, the image starts falling apart really, really quickly with 422 subsampling. Sorry, 420 subsampling than 422. So it's got to be 10-bit 422 for me to look at it. And of course, the showing that I think that people that chase dynamic range numbers is see 15 plus stops of dynamic range using probably C-Log 2, but they're also going to have C-Log 3. Now, I ask a question to you all regarding to this. How many of you? When was the last time that we've actually seen Canon give out a number for dynamic range and the number actually held? Everything that I've seen so far, at least, shows me that that usually you gotta snip off like 2 stops off from the stated latitude performance. So for 15 stops, 15 plus stops of dynamic range, my guess is this is probably going to be around the 13 stop range, which is, by the way, that's still pretty damn impressive for a camera. But I also think that's going to be that I'm also thinking that's doing using a lot of processing and a lot of using noise reduction, or processing using noise reduction as well, or at least a lot of intensive processing. So to get that 13.5, because again, if we look at something like the C80, there's been a lot of documentations that show, especially with that triple native ISO sensor, that um, it's a very noisy, but it's a very digital noisy image, and um, I've I've noticed on some other cameras like the C70 that in those lower, and especially if you got a very contrasty or backlit where you're dealing with a lot of contrast with high bright and darkness, there tends to be a lot of digital artifacting that happens. I hope Canon has resolved these issues, because this is one of the things that I really noticed. Even with RAW, this issue, their shadows and their blacks are not as clean as some of their competitors. So I'm hoping that this is going to be a different case scenario with it. But what I was getting at with the triple base ISO was the fact that there's been shown both by Cine D, as well as another YouTuber that's I'm going to draw a blank on, but as you go up to those other bases, so when you go up to the second base, you lose a stop of dynamic range. When you go up to the third base, you lose another stop of dynamic range. So really, once you get to those second bases, you're talking about 11 and a half, 12 stops. Go to that third base, you're talking about 10 and a half, 11 stops, hoping for the best. So again, we'll see. But to be fair to Canon, if you need to shoot at 12,800, if that's the third native ISO, if you need to shoot at 12,800, you're not working with a lot of dynamic range anyway. So having a high number of dynamic range is not as necessary in those higher SOs compared to that. So let us go to the chat and see. Trevor says, I think they mean the amount of camera you get for the size. Can you reiterate what you mean by that, man? I will not necessarily sure what you mean by that. I had my eye on the FX3, but I don't know if it's smart to get it now with all about to happen. Look, all right, I'm not gonna. I don't like telling anybody that what their buying decisions is. I just like giving the information, and for cameras, in the case of cameras, I like to provide the information, and based on my experience, who do I think the cameras are most suited for? But for you, Bill, I will say, I'll just for your question, Bill, I don't think you have to worry about the FX3 is not going anywhere anytime soon. The FX3 is still in high demand for doc work. It's still in high demand for corporate work. It's still in high demand for ad agencies. A lot of ad agencies ask if you shoot with a Sony, mainly because that is something that they're used to. So, at the end of the day, I look at it as like, what do you have right now, and what works for you? And before you start going in with what's the most sex, because IBC is just around the corner, so we're gonna get hit with a lot of gas gear acquisition signals. For those of you who don't know what that is, we're gonna get hit with a lot of gas. The hype train for the next 2 weeks, the amount of hype YouTubers and us YouTubers are going to give you guys for the next 2 weeks. you're gonna get really, really annoyed with us for the next couple of weeks. So, I say all of this to just take some time, sit back, because I will say, because obviously a price, nobody knows about the price right now, and there's a lot of guess. I think if Canon is going to be really, really serious about it, they should price this somewhere between $3,000 and $3,500. I don't think they're going to do that because right now the FX3 I think goes for like 38 or between 38 and $4,200. I think they're going to price it just under the R5 Mark II, so probably somewhere around $4,000. If it is around $4,000, I don't know. That is a hard sell for a camera that only has SD cards. Um, that has SD cards. That's a hard sell because then I'm almost certain there's not going to be any built-in NDs with this camera. Like obviously it's not mentioned, but if it was a serious thing, I think a lot of people would have mentioned built-in NDs because that would have been a huge thing for this body, but it's not mentioned at all. So my guess is there isn't. For $4,000, if it's at $4,000, again, I don't know. Most of the people that I talk to don't know, but if it's at $4,000, that's a hard sell because then I'm like, for just a little bit. I know $1,500. Saying $1,500 is a little bit more, but a little bit more, you can get a camera that has built-in NDs. You can get a camera that has an SDI. Again, we don't know if this has time code or not. We don't know a lot of the IR ports, but I'm almost positive there isn't going to be SDI. There may be a time code because Canon is really big on trying to get these cameras, especially their cinema line cameras. Netflix, there's potential for a time code, but SDI and built-in NDs, I don't expect those. But you can get all of those for on the C80. So would you just save up to get the C80, especially if you're trying to do more serious work? That's sort of where I'm looking at it for you in terms of bills. So I think you got time. First of all, especially since these cameras are not going to make an impact on like actual serious work for at least a year. So don't sweat it. Just if you were looking at the FX3, it's only going to, you can get some used, and you can get stuff FX3 used for pretty decent value, or if you can exchange it, find a way to trade it in. Like I was through a trade-in, I was able to get my FX3 for $850. So that makes it a lot harder for me to try to sell. And set it off. Thank you for joining. Come on, even if you don't have much support, I know you could do it. I guess what support I guess I'll try to do it. I don't know exactly what I'm trying to do, but I'll see what I could do. But maybe talk about I don't know. Maybe you can elaborate more on that. I would love to know what you mean by that. I'm a beginner. This would be my first mirrorless. Would it be smarter to just wait versus buying an FX3? Oh, okay. So you're in the very beginning. Okay. All right. So if you're in the very beginning, I would honestly, all the I'll just be honest with you. Even with an FX3 or any of this sweet stuff, I honestly, unless you got a really big budget that you're really about to get to spend on, if this is going to be your first mirrorless camera, I would like to ask, what do you have in terms of your gear and your equipment that you have right now? Because if you don't have that much, I would tell you right now, I would go with something smaller. I would go with something depending on what your budget. I'm assuming if you're going for an FX3, you're trying to spend somewhere between $35,000 and $4,000. If you don't have a lot, I would rather you take that $4,000 and put majority of it into other things like lights, sound, get one good solid, lens to just get yourself off, and then get some really small, get some really affordable. Like at that point, if you're going to go Canon, I would tell you to probably start off with something like the RV50, which is like $680, and build out your package and just build out your package or get. I would start off a lot smaller. That's basically what I would say. Like if so, again, depending on what you have, man, in terms of your gear package, you should invest the money you're going to spend on an FX3 or this camera or something else. Invest it in a lot more. I would invest it in more stuff in other areas than this. Like there's a light that actually I just got delivered to me today. It's a 200-watt light, and I'll talk about this on the channel. But it's a 200-watt light, 200-watt RGB light, COB light, and I paid like $270 for it. So, and that's like for a 4 grand budget, that's still nothing. I can build out and get a lot more, and that will have more impact on the quality that you're going to be delivering than a high-end camera. The camera, in terms of a high-end camera, that should be like only that you should start moving up to there once you've sort of got a foundation already in other areas. Sorry, hold on a second. Of course, the other camera. Of course, my phone has to be in some in another place where I set it. Apologies for that. All right, but hopefully that. So okay. So you're coming in with a T3i. Budget is 4K. Yes, on a full frame. Again, what do you have with your T3i? What other pack? Because if you're trying to come in, I would tell you right now, if you don't have like a, if all you have is like the kit lens that comes with the T3i, if you haven't barely invested in RF glass or mirrorless glasses yet and got some good quality, I think you should maybe divvy up, especially EF. You can get, if you got the T3i, you still got an EF camera, so EF glass, and you can get good quality EF glass really cheap right now. I believe you can get the 70 to 200 for like $600 right now. Like a 70 to 200 at 28 IS, like the second gen, for like $600. And that will to be, again, that's just one lens, but you can get lenses, especially EF lenses, relatively cheap. And again, what type of lighting setups do you have? If you don't have any lighting, I wouldn't move. Don't worry about full size. To me, I would say build out your package, and if you haven't already, again, I don't know you, but if you haven't mastered like composition, your frame ups, and trying to light your scenes, do that first, because you can smoke anybody with a T3i. If you have the right gear and you have the right knowledge, you can smoke anybody with an FX3 or a C50 or any other high-end full-frame camera. So, but again, that's all I will say right now about that. So that's that was again. So that was the first teaser that we got. We actually just got if you guys were over at the Creative Fam Academy, we actually got a second teaser, and let me make sure there's no sound, but there's actually another teaser that they just dropped today on Instagram, where they have this on an FPV drone, and then they show just a sneak peek of the camera right there, with some text that people have just been tin cannon conspiracy theory for a while. So like this particular open your world. So that a lot of people have been suggesting that means that there is going to be open gate with this. I personally, uh, I might be in agreement with Uncle Kofi Yaboya, when he said this. That also could mean that Canon could be, that's Canon signal that they can be opening up. They finally could be opening up to third party lenses. So that's possible. I think it's, I, so that's one way. But again, it could also be the open gate. Again, open gate would be a really really serious thing if 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 they if if again they get, if they could get 10-bit 422, to me that would already put them a step ahead of Lumix. Um, so again, this just came out and we got a little bit, and they just, I'm gonna try to see if I can pause it, but there's a part where it's like you got a good glimpse of you get a good glimpse of it right when it passes by again, right there. So we can see that it clearly has a some sort of audio handle on the top of this. Um, it's got the twisty knobs that you see, very similar to the Sony FX3. So uh, I am really curious. I am really curious about this Cine lens. Um, not Cine lens, the cinema camera. Sorry. Yeah, I'm really curious about this. So, what are some things that I, based on hearing what that I like about this this camera? One, I like the fact that it's going to be like, it's very similar to the body style of a Sony FX3. Um, I think the FX3, in terms of a body size, is one of the, will I say it's the best cinema style body? No. In terms of a cinema style body, I still prefer the box camera because you can modulate and build it out. One, I don't, with the same, my issues. One of the issues I do have with the FX3 is that you can't really move this on the screen that comes with it that much. In terms of in order to actually use it like up or down at different angles, you have to stick it out, and I don't like when the screen is onto the side, because it always throws off my line of sight. I prefer it to be on the line of what the camera is. So I I hope it. I wish it was going to be a multi-angle game, but also I just feel like it's too small, and there are some industry standard ports that you just can't do with getting something this small, like SDI, trying to do multiple video ports. So there is some limitations to a body that of this size, whereas something like a box style camera is just more useful. However, in terms of just a grab and go camera, um, I think the FX3 body is top notch. One of my favorite body style, and just kick a camera, go out and shoot. Just because and at the end of the day, if you can get a camera that can just make you just step outside, go and shoot, hop in your car and go, then the camera does it justice. So I'm really I'm really excited for the body style. Obviously, if the open gate is true and it's 10-bit 422, because I just don't see Canon. It's not in Canon's nature to do like a 10-bit 420 option. They're really big on just pumping out proper codecs, since they come from the broadcast. So it's not their nature to do 10-bit 420. However, I do believe, so if it is open gate, and if it is 10-bit 422, huge win, and that is something Sony is really going to have to take care of, because they've been slow to the front on that, and I think Canon's already one of the most popular. They have some of the most popular products, both for photography and for video shooters. Sony's just dominated a lot of the professional areas in terms of like broadcast, corporate videos, commercials, and doc work. Canon does have doc work, and a lot of DPs still use doc work, but I think Sony's really, that's what I mean with Sony dominant. But in terms of just general popularity, owns Canon owns that, and having open gate, especially for content creators and people that deal with both vertical and especially a 3.2 open gate, because um, I got it, because we also should clarify, open gate does not mean it's a tall sensor. It doesn't mean that. Open gate simply means you get to use the full aspect of the sensor. So, and I made this comment on the Creator Fan live stream. Technically, Canon has had open gate since the original C300, because outside of the most recent cameras that they've had, the C400, the R5C, and the C80, outside of those three cameras, every single one of their cinema cameras has had a 17:9 sensor or a 16:9 sensor that you could record using the full sensor. So, by the terminology of what an open gate is, Canon has had open gate. But of course, I know people don't like it when it's said, because there's like, but that's not what it means. Well, that's what it means. Regardless of what you think it means, that's not what it means. But if they do through a 3:2 aspect ratio, having that verticality and that horizontal, I think that is going to be a huge win. There isn't talk about RAW, so we don't know about that. But even if it doesn't, I think just having a good strong 10-bit 422. But again, it's due to the SD cards. It's not going to be as robust as it could be for something like an R5.2. And if at the right price, I think this is going to be big with content creators. I think this is good. This camera's I think camera's going to be big with content creators. I think this is going to be big with wedding filmmakers. This is, to me, the number one customer for this camera is going to be wedding filmmakers. That's the second biggest one is going to be content creators, because they kind of go in hand in hand. It's always on foot. You're always on the run. I think that's going to be the second, and then the third one I think is going to be like travel filmmakers, people that just go out and travel and go to different places. I think that's just going to be a big hit. Where is yet to be seen, and why I'll go ahead and sort of hit the lead. Why I'm not necessarily going to sell my FX3. What we don't know is how well this is going to be doing in commercials work, how this is going to do in narrative film, how this is going to do with some ranges of doc work. We don't know how that's going to do and how well it's going to do. I think it'll do solid in corporate. I think it'll do solid in doc, but commercial and narratives, which is also the line of work that I do, Canon needs a lot of work. I think depending on what comes with this could put Canon in the right step, but they still have a lot of work to go there. So that's why I say I'm not necessarily sure. So let's go to chat. Sam, thank you for joining the chat, man. Even on the cine end, I picked up a Zine 50 1.4 cine lens for $350 last week. Yeah. Like I said, if you got an EF EF lens, even cine, the thing is the EF, because Canon discontinued. There's so many people that are probably trying to sell off theirs. So the markets is just high. There's so many people just selling it, and it's like you could get it cheap. So Bill, do you think the FX3 has the best image for a 4K price range? For a 4K price range, the best image? No, I don't. In a 4K price range, I think the Pixis, I think the Pixis 6K has a better image than the FX3. I think the Cinema Camera 6K full frame, which is I think $2,600. I think it's a better image than the FX3. I'll even argue that I think the S1 II has a better image than the FX3. But to me, it's not just about image. To me, it's about a camera that can get me work consistently. And there just isn't another camera that has got me consistent work and made my life easier shooting consistent work than the FX3. So it's workflow, it is image quality, it is ergonomics. All of these things factor in. It's not just image quality. My man Jared, what's up? Thank you. Hey man, thank you for joining. Um, this one would be perfect for my gimbal and real estate walkthroughs. Outside of that, my C80 is perfect. Um, you know what? You're right. If you need a C camera that can just do some gimbal shots, I mean, this is going to be way more smaller and way more lighter than this. This is going to be way more smaller and way more lighter than something like this. Obviously, the C80 and even more so with the C400. Totally agree with you, Jared. Yeah, really, I think this will do well for real estate. I should have said that. That was the other one I was thinking about. Zine is a brand I haven't heard in a long time. They got so much traction 8 years ago. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I remember they had a nice booth back in what was it 2019 when I went to the NAB. Yeah, I just think um, I mean, Zine still makes images. I just think so many people have came out with some interesting cinema lenses that have aggressively pushed down the price that a lot of people don't look at zines anymore. And also the zines, there were some serious flaws with the zines, the original zines. I think they improved it with their latest renditions of the zines, but at the price point that they're asking for, you can look at so many other different places and get equal quality, if not better, I would argue. Angelo, hey, welcome to the. Thank you, man. Thank you for the Netherlands. At least it's not midnight this time when you were joining us, man. But I appreciate you once again joining the channel. So thank you, man. All right. So I think this is a good time to talk about because I know. So Bill's question is kind of like the last thing I talk about because, as y'all know, I have the Sony FX3. Actually, let me go ahead and get that real quick. So, as y'all know, as you can see, this is as you guys can see, this is my Sony FX3. This has been either my A camera or my B camera for a lot of the projects. On the dock shoot that I just did, this was the B camera to my cinema camera 6K. This will be the A cam. I got a wedding tomorrow. Just got last minute that a wedding tomorrow that I'm going to be shooting, and this camera has so many things work for it, and I bring all this here to give my reasons why, even if everything comes true tomorrow of what of the specs that we heard comes through, it's still, I would say, if for me, it's still not good enough to have me sell it. Have my sell my FX3 for this camera. But my thing is personal. But maybe these are some things that you guys want to look at, or you're in Bill's position and you're looking at this. So some of the reasons why I'm going to keep it, even though I really like what I'm seeing with this potential C50. But why am I going to keep the FX3? Number one, I already know that this camera is going to give me work. Yes, there's some things that could be improvement, but there isn't really any additional workload that I see from the C50 that will justify me having to go out and spend God knows how much money, $3,500, $4,000, $4,500. Let's hope Canon doesn't do a Canon premium and charge $5,000 for it. But I just don't see enough of what would make my workflow better, or what could be better in terms of my workflow with going to Canon to drop into Sony, because the image out of this is still great. It's not my favorite, but it's still great, and it does the job. Yes, this doesn't have open gate, and that's something that I think is going to ultimately pay Sony. Even right now, it doesn't do for me, but I know for a lot of people that's going to be a big deal, or I should say, yeah, it doesn't have open gate or 3x2 open gate, and I think for a lot of people that's going to be a big deal, and I get that. I think since I already have the cinema camera 6K, I have the open gate camera kind of already fixed, so it's not as big of a deal to me compared to, say, someone who may not have a camera that has an open gate. So that to me that's one of the things. But again, it's the camera. The FX3 just has a brand to it. It has the ability that when I'm calling someone, I'm talking to either a director or I'm talking to an ad agency or I'm talking to a producer, and they ask me what camera you're shooting with. I say FX3. Immediately, their eyes go up and go, "Oh, great! We shoot with those all the time." Or there's a couple colleges out here in Pennsylvania that we haven't worked. We've worked directly, but mostly indirectly in terms of for doc shoots. But a lot of the things, and I guess what I'm trying to get is, Sony's are like dominant in my market. Sony's are dominant in my market. So are Reds, and then for narrative and commercial works, it's Aries. Photographers, Canon dominates, absolutely dominates. In terms of the photographers in my area, Canon is their go-to. But in terms of the video for terms of the work that I do that gets me paid, it's Sony. And it's very, very prevalent. So to go to an entire system where clients already have a workflow and an expectation, that's not necessarily, to me, a smart investment. And then also, I would have to reinvest into the RF mount ecosystem where I'm already in. I got Sony Glass. Now that transition isn't going to be as difficult for me, given the fact that my main line of lenses now are the DZO Vespids, and they're PL. So the beauty is that eases off of me. And if I ultimately wanted to go back to Canon and shoot with Canons, I could. Because I will at least have lenses that I could just simply adapt, and I'll still be able to ready to shoot, even though I may not have RF lenses. So there's that part. The other thing for me is there's just certain features that I've grown to love that I think Sony still has, but I need Canon to go in. The big one for me, and even though it's just not directly with Sony, but it does work, is an app that works with Sony, and that is EL Zone. And EL Zone, I say that I don't say this like overblown, if that makes sense. EL Zone and the FX3 have made me a better cinematographer. They literally have made me a better cinematographer, because with EL Zone, you could directly create a LUT, but I don't really have the time to sort of just fix and try to build a stop and build my own EL Zone. So trying to get one to get access without going to have to spend hundreds, if not thousands of dollars on a monitor that may not always necessarily work for the situations. But having something where I only have to pay $20, I can have EL Zone on my smartphone, and I can basically go wirelessly everywhere, and I can just sit this. But literally, even on shoots that the FX3 is not even on, I'll bring the FX3 just so I can set it up and I can check the exposures of the scene and how I want to sort of play out and sort of light the scene. It changed everything about me. And again, Sony doesn't have it, but they have the easiest access to get it with Monitor Plus. And until Canon implements EL Zone into their cameras, and to me, I really think every camera company should be trying to get EL Zone into their cameras, patent or otherwise, because I just can't see myself working in a system without EL Zone anymore, because it speeds up the workflow and the communications I have. It makes my work relationship with my gaffers and my G&E crew way better when I have the budget to get a Genie Crew. It makes me be able to work and sort of get the scene how I want to much faster, because it's better, more so than false color, more so than waveforms and histograms. And this is the easiest, most accessible way to get it right now. So if Canon was to come with OpenGate, if it was to come with an EL zone, then I actually would, I potentially could consider. But again, it would have to, but then that was only becoming after it's released and after it's been out, and you start seeing this camera in the wild and more corporate jobs actually using it. Because at the end of the day, I got bills to pay, and I want to do this kind of work for a long time. I've always wanted to film. Film is my passion, and I plan to do this until I'm in the grave. So, and to me, this right now, this is the camera that makes it the easiest to do what I love and get paid for it. So that's my main reasons why. But that's my situation. Obviously, if you are not in my situation and your situation is very different, the Canon C50 is a very, very enticing camera. It is a very, very enticing camera that if you don't have those things that tie you down, I knock nobody that wants to look at this and get it over the FX3. I think, again, we'll see come September 9th. Again, join me on Simon Yates' Ordinary Filmmaker channel. Join me there. Y'all join us there at 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And we'll all get to see and enjoy the announcement together. But yeah, basically, if it's just those little things, but again, if your line of business is weddings, I think yes, this is a better offering than the FX3. I think the C50, based on what the rumor specs, if the rumor specs are true, the C50 is going to be a better offering for weddings than the FX3. If you are a content creator, I think the Sony FX3, oh my God, I keep switching them. I think the Canon C50 is going to be a better offering than the Sony FX3. If content creation is your main drive of income, if wedding videography is your main drive of income, then I think these are going to be better options. So let's go back to here. So let's read some of the comments. So Sam says their lens zine and to their big one, no one wants bigger lenses. Yes, so I will definitely say the trend is going towards smaller lenses. However, I personally would disagree with you, Sam, in terms of no one wants big lenses. I actually think bigger lenses are better, and by physics definitions, bigger lenses do tend to be better, simply because from a cinematography standpoint, bigger lenses are better, and the reason they're better is because with the throw distance that bigger lenses can have, because the lens can see more three-dimensional space when it's bigger. It's just physics. So yes, there's more inconvenience with a bigger lens, but if you want to really just get a three-dimensional, get a really depth three-dimensional image, you want a bigger lens. It just helps with much easier creating a three-dimensional lens. And that's why to me, the Tokina Vista Primes are my favorite. Those are big lenses, and I love them, and they're still my favorite, with the Dizio Orals being my second favorite. Again, another big lens. What gimbal do you prefer these days? I prefer the Juin Cinepeer 4E. It's light. It's easy to collapse, it breaks down. Relatively easy setup. The only thing I think is just I think Jewin sort of messed up with making it basically a righty only, and not really having it set up to help people that are left-handed. I think outside of that, I use it. I use the gimbal all the time, and it's my favorite gimbal. The C80 looks enormous from what I've seen. It's actually not. I guess it depends. If you're coming, you're coming from a Rebel T3i. So if you're coming from a Rebel T3i, yes, it's a big lens. It's a big camera. But in terms of cinema cameras, it's small. It's really, really small. It's really just a little bit bigger than the size of a 1DX. Now, if you say the 1DX is huge, then yeah, it's huge. But it's only slightly bigger than a 1DX, and it's really not that big. It's again, compared to big, like serious cinema cameras, it's very, very small. Canon should really add open gate as well. Totally agree, man. Besides Sony and Canon, pretty much everyone has it. Again, I think Sony. Again, I want to emphasize we need to be careful how we use open gate. Open gate does not mean tall sensor. That's not what it means. It just means you get to utilize the whole sensor. So and I stress this because I say that because technically Canon has had open gate. They let you use the whole sensor. Canon, Blackmagic, and Red, even though they haven't introduced a 3x2 sensor or a 4x3 sensor that can do open gate, they had cameras that do in 16:9 or 17:9 shoot open gate. So I want to point because that's not what the word means. The word doesn't mean that. It just means use the whole sensor. A lot of videographers on YouTube said that everybody is shooting Sony. I mean, for the most part, yeah, okay. I don't know. All right. Again, I'll say this. I've been on a lot of projects. And again, I'm speaking mainly in the tri-state area of New York, Philly, Jersey. And all the projects that I've been on, I think I've only been on that are not my own project. I think there's only been one project that I've had a Canon. Almost every single one of them has been Red, has been Sony, has been Ari. And majority of the ones that I've actually been on around here have been Sony's. The bigger projects, some of the bigger projects were Ari's, and one TV and then one television that I PA'd was Red. So, but majority of them was Sony. So, again, in terms of videography, maybe, but it's so. But I would say this in terms of photography, Canon dominates. Canon dominates photography here. And I would say even wedding videos, wedding videography, Canon has a good amount of them. It's just Sony's are so much more common and so much used that they're just more used. Kind of crazy given how mediocre the FX3 A7 quality is. The FX6, FX30 Barana events are great though. I think it's better than just mediocre. I think the FX3 sensor is actually a really good quality sensor. It's just not my favorite. I think Blackmagic Blackmagic does better with the sensors than has better sensors. And I think Panasonic has better images, but I don't consider them mediocre. But that's my take. Jared, as I mentioned, and Jared has come out, it's basically the size of a 1DX Mark III. You know, it's just a little thicker. It's just a little thicker than the 1DX. For Panasonic, their biggest problem is that Sony videographers will no switch as everyone is set on using Sony. I think you're getting there. I think you're getting there, Angelo. The biggest, but it's I think what you're sort of infer to comes down to what I think is the biggest problem, and it's honestly of Panasonic's own doing, and that is they basically got rid of their cinema lines of cameras. They basically discontinued it. They discontinued the section that had the professional video cameras and went full on into mirrorless. And I think that's ultimately what killed. What's the problem is because there's no scale. You look at every other of the camera companies. Nikon has red, so they can scale with that. Canon has their high-end cinema cameras. Blackmagic has their Ursa cameras. Fujifilm has the Eterna that's getting ready to come out. And then, of course, Sony has the Burano and the Venice cameras and the FX3 cameras. The point I'm trying to make is that every single other camera company has a method of scaling. But not only a method of scaling, being able to scale, I would say Blackmagic is in the same problem with Panasonic. But outside of Blackmagic, everybody else you can sort of scale into the same ecosystem. You can scale up through Nikon. You can scale up through Nikon all the way up to a Red V Raptor and using the same mount. You can scale up with Canon all the way up to the C400 and you use the same mount. You can scale up with Fujifilm is a little bit different because again they split up APS-C in medium format, and then of course Sony scale from E mount all the way up. The point I'm trying to make is that it's not only that, but they've built an ecosystem that allows you to grow, and Panasonic doesn't have that. They just have mirrorless bodies, either Micro Four Thirds or full frame. They don't have anywhere else to grow. What about T4i? I mean, if it's what you can get, is what you can get. Again, to me, the more important thing, Rex, it's about getting good quality lights, getting lenses, and getting sound and getting better sound. Those are the things that I think that should be the focus. Because that overall, no matter what you have, those things are going to make your images better. Especially, they're going to make you a better filmmaker when you know how to compose, when you know how to set frame, and when you know how to light. Those things, those are the foundations. No matter what the camera is, that's the foundation of cinematic storytelling, and you got to master those before you even talk about other cameras. I see very little difference between all those you listed and the FX3. So I think all right. So the ones that I listed, so what's different about them? Let's go through. So I brought up the Cinema Camera 6K full frame. The big difference is that shoots 12-bit RAW. It shoots 3x2 open gate 6K in 12-bit RAW. That's completely different than the FX3. Let's go get the S1, the S12. The S12 again shoots open gate. Again, I think to me the 10-bit 420 is the weak point, and that's there, but it's there. But it does have a robust 10-bit 422. It has ProRes. It also has the ability to shoot RAW internally, which the FX3 does not. Although you can get RAW controls with the FX3 doing Catalyst Browse. I actually made a video on how you could do that. If you want, check out the videos talking about getting RAW out of the FX3. So there, with that, also higher resolutions. Obviously 4K 120, you get 4K 120. To me, also with the S12, the design of the screen, of the multi-angular screen, it makes it, again, to me, shooting experience is just as important as image quality, and that shooting experience of being able to keep it makes a difference. So there's a lot of it's more nuanced. I guess I'll say, Bill, it's much more nuanced than that, but there are some differences. But again, it's about your workflow. Robert, hey, what's going on, man? Thank you for joining. We really don't know much about this new camera. Not even the same C50 is, not even the name C50. All we know is the form factor. I mean, yes, that's true. We truly don't know yet if this is fully these are all still speculations. However, a lot of the rumor sites and the people that do work in the rumor networks, I've heard enough from them that they believe it's true, and I trust them enough to say it's a strong possibility that this is going to be true. So, but Robert is right. This is a wait and see. So I heard that Ari for sale as they're facing a lot of competition. Which company is best to buy Ari? Yes, that is. So Ari is. They are in talks right now. They're thinking. They're not up for sale. Let's be clear. Ari is not up for sale. They're considering the possibility of being put up for sale. So I need to clear that difference. So, and that's sort of the thing that I wanted to point out. Okay, sounds kind of low. Okay, let me crank this up. Hopefully, I sound a little bit better, and you guys can hear me a little bit better. But basically, yeah, Ari's not up for sale. They're considering it, and that news came out a couple weeks ago. I put my 2 cents. I think the one that I hope would buy it, but I don't think they have the money to buy it, would be Blackmagic Design, mainly because they're a private company and it would remain private. I don't want a public traded company to get their hands on it, because that alone would change how, because Ari's been a family issue company since its inception. So I want to sort of keep it sort of more in that private area thing. So that's number one. Number two, Blackmagic, Blackmagic has the workflow with DaVinci Resolve that just seems to be working well for Ari. The other one that I said that should probably buy it is Panasonic, because as I was mentioning earlier in the stream, Panasonic is they're lacking a cinema camera ecosystem. They just are. They're just lacking a cinema camera ecosystem. So buying Ari, if they were to purchase Ari, which Panasonic definitely has, they're a publicly traded company. So that would be a nick for them. But if there is a company that should be considered to buy Ari, it would be Panasonic. One, they already work with Panasonic to sort of using the Ari Log C3, even though the Ari Log C3 looks nothing like the Ari Log C in an actual Ari Alexa if you use it. But they've worked, like I said, they work with Ari, so they've worked with Panasonic before. Panasonic's worked with Ari, and they seriously need I think a cinema camera ecosystem to really compete with the other, to really push themselves forward with the other brands. So yeah, Ari's up for sale. Okay. Oh, okay, you were talking about this. All right, sorry. So I think that is pretty much what I wanted to talk about today with you guys. And it's a Friday. I don't want to hold you guys up for too long. And I've got a wedding to prep and get ready for. So I'm going to head out and sort of wind down on the stream. So thank you guys once again for joining me today, even though this is not a normal day. So before you guys leave, just make sure to hit that like button, so YouTube knows that sees that you guys are enjoying the content, and this continues to move forward. But also, my normal streaming days are going to be Thursdays at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you guys are enjoying this, come back Thursdays, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, unless I announce otherwise. And then finally, once again, join me and Simon at the Ordinary Filmmaker channel. We're going to be live streaming the actual announcement of the new Canon camera on Tuesday. So Tuesday morning. So if you guys are up at 8 in the morning and you got time, definitely join us there, and we will be happy to have you guys. So Last looking at last comments. Thank you, Trevor. Thank you for coming. And Angelo says, I agree with you, Angelo. Yes, consider buying Ari. So thank you guys for coming. And as always, until next time, take care, everyone.